Hi, I'm back. So I want to tell a story that's actually probably too long for one video, so this is going to be the first part of likely a three-part series. And this is about the first time that I took a hallucinogenic drug. It was a Saturday morning. My mother had gone to the market and I was downstairs in the little room making some candles, and I just got my monthly fix of music. I was part of a cassette tape club, and I just gotten in the mail Allman Brothers Eat a Peach, Elton John, Funky Chateau, and one other cassette. I don't remember which one, but I do remember those two very clearly. And I was so excited. In fact, the postman had come that morning, and I had gotten the parcel. I remember they didn't put it in the mailbox. It was like a special delivery thing, and rang the door, and I got the parcel. I was very excited, and I remember getting it just as my mom was leaving to go to the store. I had already begun a batch of candles down in the little room, and there was some candle wax already being melted. And I went down there and I put in the first side of Eat a Peach. I don't remember which track played, but you know, I settled into my chair and I lit up a pipe and smoked some weed and started settling into the experience. And meanwhile, this whole, as I talked about earlier, this whole transformation is happening inside of me internally, and now I'm creating an external transformation, and I'm interweaving art into this as well through the medium of candle making. And I'm down there, and you know what I would do is I'd set up several different molds. Usually I'd make 4 or 5 candles at a time, and I'd collect whatever I could, milk cartons or mayonnaise jars, or you know, whatever container I could use to drop a wick in and pour molten wax in is what I would use. And it was a great hobby, and it was a great way of expressing myself. So I'm listening to this music and I'm thinking, what's the first layer I'm going to pour, and I just taken this huge hit, and I was completely stoned, and I was scratching my chin like this and kind of pondering. And I had bought the week earlier on my trip into Hollywood some additive to put into the candle wax that would make them react with a black light. So I had several different packets of, I think one was like a lime green, one was an orange, and one was a yellow additive to add to the candle wax that would, you know, it would interact with the black light, the ultraviolet rays that the black light put out. So I'm gonna use crimson, and I'm gonna add some of that yellow into the crimson. And I remember pouring the first layer, and after you'd pour it, you'd start another. I would get another chock full of nuts. That was the coffee cans that we had around. I would take them from my parents when they were, you know, empty, and they were going to throw them away. And that's what I would use. I had like a hot plate. No, I'm sorry. I had a Coleman stove, an old one. We used white gas. You pour the fuel in the little red tank, and you pump the damn thing up, get the pressure, and it was one of those green Coleman stove, 3-burner deal. And on top of the Coleman stove, I had a aluminum, probably maybe 1 gallon aluminum pot, a Kelty backpacking pot that I had absconded from our backpacking camping supplies, and I had that on the middle burner with the chock full of nuts in a double boiler type of situation. So I had water boiling in the Kelty thing, and then the chock full of nuts in there. So when one was done, I'd get another one so the colors wouldn't get mixed up, and I'd start another batch. So there I am, starting another batch, sitting down, and I think, you know, Ain't No Way Out or Tied to the Whipping Post, some songs playing, and I'm just getting more stoned, and the cauldron's going and the bubbling's going, and I repeated that process for, I'd say 3 or 4 layers. I usually made anywhere from 4 to 6 different layers of color, and then in the end I would put in like a piece of cholla wood or a piece of cactus or some kind of botanical, often rocks on the outside of the, on top of the candle to give it more character. And then when it was all set, I would take the mold. If it was glass, I'd break it carefully and throw the pieces away. If it was a milk carton, I'd tear it. And then I'd get a little butane torch and kind of finish it off. And anyway, it was just really psychedelic and very cool. So I'm down there, the last batch is going, and all of a sudden, John! My mother is back from the market. Telephone! It's the phone, and I'm all stoned, and there's smoke, and I figure I better run up there quick before she comes down and sees what's going on. That was always, when in doubt, beat him off at the pass. You know, head him off at the pass was my modus operandi. So I go upstairs and I pick up we lived in this huge Spanish home, and in two parts, upstairs and downstairs, there's a little alcove built into the plaster wall where the phone sat, and we had old dial Ma Bell phones. God forbid Dad would spring for a touch tone. They'd only been out a couple of years. We still didn't have a color TV. Forget a touch tone phone. So I pick up the phone and I got it, and she'd hang up, and it's my buddy George Babin. He's like mumbling. I can't even understand him. And I go, George, what's going on? He goes, I got it. Or I go, what? He goes, I got it. I go, what did you get? He goes, I got the mescaline. I'm like, oh, he had talked about getting this psychedelic chocolate mescaline. And I didn't know mescaline from schmescaline, or, I had been smoking pot for a month. I didn't know anything about psychedelics. So he'd mentioned it on Friday the day before, and to be honest with you, I was a little scared. I remember Art Linkletter's daughter jumped out of a window or something, and there was a lot of bad press about psychedelics, and I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know acid from friggin' MDA. What did I know? I didn't even know who Timothy Leary was, or Huxley, or Sandoz. I didn't know any of this stuff yet. So anyway, when he told me about it Friday, I was a little apprehensive. I didn't show that. But I wasn't invested in taking that acid, or whatever it was that he had. I wasn't invested. I had not made the decision that I was going to do it. But when all of a sudden he had it, what am I going to say? No, I don't want to? Of course not. So he's mumbling. I can barely understand him. Like he was talking quiet. I really didn't understand why I couldn't understand him. But he wasn't talking like he normally spoke. And he goes, he said, meet me at Desi's, and Desi's was the house without the nuclear family. Her dad, was this cool guy, and she was allowed to smoke pot, and so on and so forth. So that was the new, after school, hangout, void of authority. So that was the beginning of this psychedelic journey story, and I will return to this part 2 at another time. Thank you for being here today. Bye-bye.